Part 1. 600 words. The studio lights glared brighter than usual that night. Jennifer Lopez sat across from Jimmy Kimmel, clad in a sleek white jumpsuit that shimmered every time she moved. Her posture was poised, but there was tension beneath the surface. Those closest to her could see it in her eyes. She was in the middle of her latest press tour, promoting both a new film and her upcoming album. Sleep-deprived and emotionally taxed, she had held it together, until now. Jimmy Kimmel had always been known for pushing boundaries with his humor. That night, he seemed especially emboldened, perhaps chasing a viral moment. The interview started light, banter about Jennifer's Bronx roots, a joke about her skincare routine. But things shifted when he brought up her marriage to Ben Affleck. "So, how's Ben? Still writing those sad little journal entries?" Jimmy quipped, holding up a mock diary labeled "Dear Batman, love J-Lo." The audience laughed, but Jennifer didn't. Her lips pressed into a line. "He's doing fine," she said coolly. Jimmy didn't catch the warning in her tone, or ignored it. "Come on, Jen, we all know he looks like he's in a hostage video when he's with you. Tell us the truth. What do you really do to him behind closed doors?" Jennifer shifted in her seat, eyes narrowing. "You want to talk about what I do behind closed doors, Jimmy?" Her voice had dropped a register. "Maybe we should talk about what you do behind yours." The crowd gave a mixture of gasps and nervous laughter. Kimmel chuckled, trying to smooth things over. "It's all in good fun, Jen. You know that." But Jennifer wasn't smiling. "No, you hide behind comedy to humiliate people. And I'm done playing along." Jimmy tried redirecting. Okay, let's talk about your movie. There's a scene where..." But she cut him off. "No, let's talk about respect. Something you clearly struggle with." The room fell silent. Camera operators exchanged glances. The audience sensed something real was happening. Not scripted, not promotional. This was raw. Jennifer stood up slowly. The jumpsuit glittered under the lights as she removed her mic and placed it on the desk. Jimmy sat frozen, unsure whether to laugh or call for a commercial break. "I've spent 30 years in this business earning my place. I've been laughed at, sexualized, underestimated, and mocked. By men like you. But I'm still here, and I'm done letting you use me for punchlines. Jen, come on, let's not do this here," Jimmy muttered, a nervous grin cracking across his face. She took a final glance at him, then turned toward the audience. "To every woman watching this, don't laugh just because you're told it's a joke. Sometimes the joke is just cruelty in disguise." And with that, she walked off the stage. No cue cards, no planned exit, just heels clicking across the studio floor and an audience left stunned in silence. The cameras panned awkwardly to Jimmy, who muttered something unintelligible before they finally cut to commercial. But the moment was already out in the world. Phones had captured it, social media was exploding, and Jennifer Lopez, she wasn't answering calls from her publicist. She was already in the back of a black SUV, gazing out the window at the city lights, breathing in freedom she hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just a meltdown. It was a declaration, and the world was listening. By the next morning, the moment had gone viral. Clips of Jennifer's walk-off dominated every corner of the internet. On TikTok, thousands reenacted her final line. On Twitter, hashtags like #RespectJLo, #NotAFreakingPunchline, and #Kimmel cancelled trended worldwide. Memes were everywhere, but this time, the internet wasn't laughing at her. They were standing with her. Public opinion split in the hours that followed. Some called her a diva, claiming she couldn't take a joke. But others, especially women across industries, rallied behind her. Celebrities began posting messages of support. Viola Davis tweeted, "There comes a time when silence is no longer strength. Bravo, Jennifer." Even Taylor Swift reposted the clip with a single word, "Queen." Jennifer didn't respond. She turned off her phone and went underground, retreating to a private residence in Malibu, surrounded only by her core team and her mother. "I didn't plan it," she told them, pacing the living room barefoot. "But I'm tired. I'm tired of pretending I don't hear the digs, the mockery, the constant narrative that I'm too much, too old, too controlling, too ambitious." Her mother simply nodded. "Then stop pretending." At the same time, chaos brewed inside ABC Studios. Jimmy Kimmel's team scrambled. Statements were drafted, lawyers consulted. Jimmy, known for his smug confidence, looked shaken in his office. "I pushed too far," he finally admitted to his producer. "I didn't read the room. Hell, I didn't even try. But the damage was done." Jennifer's team issued a brief statement that afternoon. Ms. Lopez stands by everything she said. No further comment. 3 days later, she returned, not to late-night couches, but to a live-streamed event titled, Unfiltered, Jennifer Speaks, hosted at a quiet venue in Los Angeles. Tickets were free, seats limited. It was not a press stunt, it felt more like a town hall. Under soft lighting, Jennifer stepped onto the stage. No glitter this time, just jeans, a simple white blouse, and eyes that looked rested, but resolved. She didn't deliver a rehearsed speech. She spoke like a woman who had held her voice back for far too long. "For decades, I played the game," she said. "I smiled when I wanted to scream. I laughed off disrespect. I accepted that being a powerful woman meant being the butt of the joke. But last week, something cracked. And I let the truth spill out." The room hung on her every word. No cameras zoomed in for drama. No applause breaks. Just silence. And gravity. She shared stories of being talked down to on sets. Of being told she was lucky to still be relevant. Of being asked to shrink, dim, and make herself more palatable. "But here's the thing," she added, her voice steady. "I didn't walk off that stage because of one joke. I walked off because that joke was a mirror, showing me everything I've tolerated for too long." The audience erupted in quiet tears, quiet nods. For some, it was the first time they saw Jennifer Lopez not as a superstar, but as a woman standing her ground. By the following week, Jimmy Kimmel issued a formal apology on air. "Not scripted, not deflected. I was wrong," he said, "and I want to be better." Some believed him, others didn't. Jennifer didn't comment on the apology. She didn't need to. Instead, she released a short poem on Instagram. "You thought I stormed off. But no, I walked into myself." The caption read, "For every woman who stayed silent when they laughed too loud." And just like that, Jennifer Lopez's career entered a new chapter, not defined by reinvention, but reclamation. Not everyone understood her, but finally, she no longer cared. Week later, Jennifer Lopez was back in the studio, but this time, not for damage control. She stood behind the microphone in a dimly lit vocal booth, headphones over her ears, eyes closed, heart wide open. Her longtime producer Max Martin sat outside the glass, watching her with a mix of curiosity and reverence. The Jennifer before the Kimmel incident had been focused on commercial sound. Polished lyrics, marketable hooks. But this version of Jennifer, she wasn't aiming for a hit. She was reaching for something deeper. She leaned into the mic and sang the first line of a new track titled, Unwritten Rules. They said smile pretty, even when it hurts. Wear your crown, but don't dare speak first. The rawness in her voice was unfiltered, vulnerable, beautifully unrefined. It wasn't just a song, it was testimony. The kind that could only be born from rupture. Later that day, Max approached her with a hesitant smile. "You realize what this is, right?" Jennifer looked at him, confused. "It's your lemonade moment," she laughed, shaking her head. "No, it's my no more bullshit moment." Meanwhile, the ripple effect of her walk-off continued to swell. On podcasts, in boardrooms, in break rooms, women spoke up. One major studio quietly began an internal review of its comedy writing teams. A prominent morning talk show issued new policies on guest respect and safety. Though few admitted it outright, everyone knew J.Lo had shifted something. She received a private message from Oprah. "Sometimes truth needs a microphone. Sometimes it needs heels. You did both." Still, not all was applause and admiration. A segment on a major news outlet ran the headline, J.Lo's outburst, empowerment or ego. A prominent male journalist wrote a column titled, Celebrities Aren't Martyrs, They're Brands. Jennifer didn't flinch. She had lived too long in rooms full of people trying to shrink her light. Now, she'd rather blind them than dim it. One evening, she took a walk along the Malibu shoreline with her mother, Guadalupe. They hadn't talked much about that night, not deeply. But the quiet between them had always been rich. "People are saying I blew up my brand," Jennifer said, toeing the sand. Her mother looked out at the ocean. Maybe it needed to blow up. Jennifer turned to her. I just didn't want to keep pretending anymore. Guadalupe smiled. Mija, pretending is what keeps us stuck. You got unstuck. That night, Jennifer sat at her desk and began writing. Not lyrics, not a statement, but pages and pages of reflections, stories she'd never shared. Auditions where she'd been told to turn around slowly, before even being asked her name. Executives who offered opportunities in exchange for silence. And the way media turned her love life into a national punchline while letting her male counterparts go untouched. It wasn't rage that drove her pen, it was release. She would go on to compile those reflections into a book titled, Walked Into Myself, set for release the following year. But she had no timeline. No urgency. For the first time in her career, Jennifer Lopez was moving at her own pace. And the world wasn't turning away, it was leaning in. At the next major awards ceremony, where she'd originally been scheduled to present, the show surprised viewers by honoring her with a special segment titled, The Voice They Tried to Tame. Clips from her career played. Her first auditions, red carpet interviews, movie scenes, interviews where she laughed through insults. And then, the Kimmel moment. As the camera panned to her in the audience, she didn't cry. She didn't beam. She simply nodded, as if to say, yes. Finally. And in that quiet nod, millions of women saw themselves. Ready, awake, unapologetically loud in a world that had asked them for too long to be quiet. 2 months later, the world was still echoing with Jennifer Lopez's decision to walk away, not just from a chair across from Jimmy Kimmel, but from an entire system that had long defined her limits. But in a surprising twist, it wasn't the book or the album that stirred the next wave. It was a leaked email. A whistleblower from a major entertainment agency forwarded an internal memo to the press. The memo detailed a watch list of celebrities labeled volatile, opinionated, or unpredictable, advising agents and showrunners to avoid booking them. Jennifer Lopez's name sat in bold near the top, right above Meghan Markle and just below Taraji P. Henson. The backlash was immediate. Headlines exploded. Blacklist or backlash. How the industry silences women who speak. Interviews rolled in. Anonymous former employees confirmed the list existed in various forms for years, mostly targeting women of color. Jennifer's reaction. A video. Quiet, honest, filmed on her phone. No makeup. Just her, sitting cross-legged in her home studio. I wasn't surprised, she said, voice steady. I was just reminded that speaking your truth will always cost you something in a world built to silence it. But what I've learned is this, silence costs more. She didn't rage, she didn't plead, she simply looked into the camera and said, I see the list. But I've made my own. She lifted a handwritten page into the frame. It read, Women WHO won't shrink. Below it were names, some famous, some unknown, and at the bottom, you, if you're ready. The internet caught fire again. Dozens of actresses, artists, journalists, and creators began posting their own names under the same heading. Even high-profile men in the industry, those with daughters, sisters, or just a conscience, shared it in solidarity. Hashtag Women Who Want Shrink became more than a hashtag. It became a digital movement, a growing collective, and behind the scenes, something even bigger was taking shape. In early fall, Jennifer hosted a private gathering at her home in Bel Air. Not a party, a salon. Over 50 women attended, from rising YouTubers to Oscar winners to behind-the-scenes power players who never took a public stage. No cameras, no publicists, just truth. They shared stories of contracts altered after speaking up, of interview questions that reduced them to bodies, not voices, of the fear that came with saying no. Jennifer listened, took notes, and then stood up at the end of the night and said, let's build our own table. The next morning, a quiet press release announced the launch of Fierce, a new multimedia platform, created by women, for women who refuse to shrink. J. Lo wasn't just a figurehead, she was the founder, the funder, and the fuel. The platform pledged to produce films, fund female-led startups, publish unfiltered narratives, and host mentorship summits for young girls across the world. Critics rolled their eyes. Another celebrity vanity project, they scoffed. But within weeks, Fierce signed a groundbreaking distribution deal with a major streaming service, and announced its first feature film, Echo, inspired by the true story of a whistleblower who risked everything to expose workplace harassment. Jennifer wouldn't star in it. She insisted on giving the lead role to a young Latina newcomer. "I've said enough," she told the director. "It's her turn now." At the film's first table read, the young actress, nervous, overwhelmed, and teary, walked up to Jennifer during the break. "I don't know if I'm ready," she whispered. Winter arrived in Los Angeles with a chill that matched the mood in the entertainment industry. Fierce wasn't just a media platform anymore, it had become a lit match, setting fire to long-standing silences. Backed by Jennifer Lopez's relentless vision, the platform launched a weekly series called Mic Check, where underrepresented women in film, journalism, politics, and tech came forward, not to complain, but to claim space. Each episode opened with the same line, "They told me to shrink. I didn't." The series became a cultural lightning bolt. And then, something even more unexpected happened. A former producer from The Tonight Show reached out to Fierce with a story, his own. He had quietly resigned 2 years earlier, after witnessing a pattern of demeaning treatment toward female guests. When asked why he was stepping forward now, he answered, "Because J-Lo stood when the rest of us sat. And I've been sitting too long." Jennifer met him privately, along with her legal and creative teams. She listened. Then she asked a simple question. "Would you testify if others came forward too?" He nodded. "If I'm not the only one." Within 10 days, 6 more former staffers reached out. A coordinated exposé was launched, not with a scandal-hungry tabloid, but as a co-produced documentary with Fierce and a major investigative outlet. Titled, The Green Room, it promised a look inside the rooms where decisions were made, reputations were broken, and power was wielded as a weapon. As the trailer dropped, media outlets scrambled. For the first time in decades, power seemed to be tilting in a new direction. The old guard watched carefully, nervously, and Jennifer, she didn't blink. She was too busy working on FIERCE's next big leap, a partnership with 3 major international NGOs to launch a global initiative called Loud Girls Rise. The goal was clear: fund grassroots leadership programs for teenage girls across Latin America, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa. Not just performative aid, real investment, real power. The press asked her why she was doing it. Her response: "Because when I was 13, I thought my power lived in how I looked. I want these girls to know theirs lives in what they say, and what they do." But even amidst her rise, Jennifer was human. One night, sitting alone in her backyard under the stars, she watched a rerun of her old TRL appearance from 1999. She saw herself, young, glowing, laughing nervously as the male host made suggestive jokes and the crowd cheered. She smiled sadly. That girl had no idea what she'd have to survive. No idea what she'd fight for. Or what she'd ignite. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Ben. Simple. Just a screenshot of the Green Room trailer and the words, "Proud doesn't even cover it." She stared at it, heart softening. The public still speculated endlessly about their relationship. Some said they'd broken up. Others claimed they were secretly stronger than ever. But Jennifer never clarified. She no longer felt the need to. This wasn't about romance anymore. It was about reckoning. The following weekend, Fierce held its first live conference in Brooklyn. Rise, a gathering of unshrinking voices. The venue was packed. Thousands attended in person. Millions streamed it online. Jennifer walked onto the stage not as an actress, not as a pop star, not as someone's wife, but as a builder, a disruptor, a woman who'd refused to shrink, even when the world begged her to disappear behind the glitter and headlines. She opened with a single line. "This isn't about me anymore. This is about all of us." And for the first time in decades, the spotlight didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a torch, meant to be passed. Jennifer took her hand gently, smiled, and replied, "I wasn't either. But we show up anyway." And just like that, another voice found the courage to rise. The world had asked Jennifer Lopez to sit still, stay pretty, and be quiet. She stood up instead, and in doing so, helped thousands more do the same.